Hello, today we're going to be talking about SRAC SPAC and the coming merger with Momentus since ARK Invest announced ARKX, their space ETF, on January the 13th. SRAC Stock has exploded upwards and gained 45%. I went deep drilling into Momentus and I'm going to share with you everything I think you need to know. Stay tuned. Keep it simple. For those of you new to the channel, I am the Simple Trader. I share with you explosive growth stocks that I am buying or looking to buy or already have sitting in my freedom portfolio. I am not a financial advisor, so please understand this is all for entertainment only. This video is going to be slightly different from all of my previous videos on my channel, and you will see why soon. Full disclosure, after deep drilling operations, I have not opened a position in SRAC, and this is one stock which I will be passing on even if it continues to trend up or explode up. This may be one of the most neutral deep drills on this channel. No more plugging, let's start drilling. Okay, so Momentus announced on the 7th of October 2020 a merger with the SPAC, Stable Road Acquisition Corp, which is run by Stable Road Capital. Now, I have a lot of SPACs in my portfolio like BFT, BTWN, IPOF, IPOD, MPA and a few more, but when I look at SRAC on its own, I have to say it wouldn't be a SPAC that I would normally be interested in putting my money on to deliver me the goods. The CEO is a guy called Ed Freeman, and simply put, I'm not sold. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying this guy and his team are no good. I'm just saying that my personal criteria for investing in SPACs relies on the management team behind it being of significant importance and profile. I have invested in SPACs run by Chamath Palihapitiya, Peter Thiel and Bill Foley, for example, and simply put, I think those SPACs are on another level, based solely on the management team. Okay, so what's Momentus all about? Simply put, they are a space tech company that aims to provide last mile delivery for companies looking to put things into space orbit like satellites. Sounds simple enough, right? Well, let me assure you that the technology looks and probably needs to be state of the art. So much so that the information which I could find on their website doesn't seem to all add up, but I do understand that these types of technologies would have to remain quite secretive. I mean, try to find out technical specs or information on SpaceX's rockets, and I'm sure you'll be in the same boat. Nevertheless, looking at what is provided is that Momentus essentially provides 3 space taxis, and from smallest to largest in terms of payload capacity, they are Vigoride, Ardoride and Fervoride. The last 2 being still under development and no booking is available. Booking for Vigoride have already been sold out for the next 2 launches in January 2021 and June-August 2021, which is a positive, right? Earliest availability for launches would be September to October 2021 if you so happened to want to put a satellite into space orbit. So simply put, as I understand it, their whole business model is based on the fact that there are going to be lots of space satellites that are going to be shooting up into orbit, and what they provide is a taxi service that enables them to take these satellites and position them into the correct space orbit trajectories. Sounds simple, right? The interesting part, and the part that's probably the backbone of the technology that is Momentus, is the water-based fuel propulsion technology that will be used to move various satellites into correct or predetermined orbital paths. Now, I didn't know this was an issue in the first place, but when we start imagining thousands of satellites in orbit around the Earth, then you can start imagining the problem that could exist with collisions, for example. Momentus is trying to offer a niche service in this regard, and literally a space taxi, if you must call it something relatable. Okay, so looking at the Vigoride ramp up in the investor presentation of December 2020, we can see that they already met an in-space thruster test. In January 2021, Vigoride V1.0 would be the proof of concept required for their whole business model, and we will come onto this in the next segment. This will be followed by limited commercial launches and a full commercial launch further into 2021. Then we get to see the key subsystems, and if I'm being honest, those photographs tell 1,000 words to me. Then we see that Momentus has signed deals and agreements with SpaceX, which adds credence to their business model and technology for sure. And it's not just SpaceX, it's also Blue Origin, GK and Relativity. What about their orders? Well, they note they have a $90 million backlog of potential revenue, and I reiterate, potential revenue. There are some big names listed here like NASA and Lockheed Martin, and having deep drilled, there does seem to be agreements in place with both NASA and Lockheed, but the details of such agreements remain vague or undisclosed, which seems for me to be a little strange. Okay. Then they have an under negotiations or in conversations. Really? Conversations of $1.1 billion? I find that a little bit hard to believe. It would seem none of those are confirmed to a point where they all have to remain anonymous for now. Then they have the expected demand. Of a further $1.2 billion based on estimates for future mega constellations and constellation maintenance. So in fact, Momentus will also offer maintenance services on top of their taxi service. Then we see the actual backlog development, and it seems that they have a total of 5 up to 2023, with orders beyond this noted as potential. The next page illustrates NASA's investment with 14 US partners, and Momentus will support the payload on its Vigoride transfer vehicle to be launched in October 2023. Now, the complete order and backlog chart does seem quite impressive when you initially glance at it, but only when you realize that this is all projected, and only into 2026 do we see some major ramping up, that you start to wonder what's going on here. Then finally, the projected EBITDA only makes profit in 2023 with a projection of $107 million. But then check this, 4 years later in 2027, they're projecting an EBITDA of $2.4 billion. Which is ginormous, but remember, all those ifs and projections are literally ifs and projections. Did I mention that the pro forma value of the merger has Momentus at an estimated enterprise value of $1.2 billion? Wow, I hope you're starting to piece together the picture now. Okay, so if you haven't grasped my general feeling towards SRAC and Momentus yet, and you may disagree, then let's talk about some red flags which have popped up during my deep drilling into this company. Momentus were due to launch the first Vigoride on the SpaceX Falcon 9 on January 24th, but they had to cancel their participation a couple of weeks prior due to what they say is additional time needed for regulatory approval. They say the launch will be deferred to another date within 2021. Let's wait for any forthcoming news on this, but for me, it's quite suspect. Mikhail Kokorich, and I hope I haven't butchered his surname, is the CEO and founder of Momentus. He is Russian and is seeking asylum within the US. Unfortunately, he is legally barred from accessing Momentus's technology due to a US security law, according to an SEC filing on November the 2nd. For me, this is a big red flag, as I can't imagine how a company can thrive and grow without the leader and founder being in a position to lead the company. If you have been following me, you will know one of my main criteria for investing in any company or stock is the CEO or founding father. They are as important as the company itself. I mean, look at Apple and Steve Jobs, look at Amazon and Jeff Bezos, and look at the world's richest man, Tesla and Elon Musk. I simply cannot invest in Momentus if the main man himself is not even allowed to look at the technology that he has probably brought to his company.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss.
Of course, this could change in the future, but until it does, I'm not sold. But it gets worse. Looking into Kokorich's past spells more red flags for me. He was initially a businessman in mining services and an electronic retailer in Russia before he set up Doria Aerospace in 2011 to develop small satellites for Russia's space agency Roscosmos. It has also been noted that after production delays, 2 Doria spacecraft were lost during a botched 2017 launch launch. In a following legal dispute with Roscosmos, the agency won a $4.7 million court settlement against Doria, which led the Russian company to bankruptcy. It gets murkier still. In 2018, Cockroach launched an investment fund alongside an investor in Astro Digital, Vadim Makov, the former head of OMZ Group, a Russian industrial conglomerate controlled by Gazprom Bank. SEC records from 2019 also show that one of the co-founders and major investors for Momentus Space is Lev Kasis, a top executive at Russian state-owned Sberbank, Russia's largest bank. Now, both Gazprom Bank and Sberbank were sanctioned by the US government after Crimea's annexation in 2014. If you don't know what that is or haven't heard of it, please Google it. I just want to share a little snippet of an interview with the man himself, which for me seals the no deal.
So basically what we are doing, we are combining the capabilities of low-cost, large, reusable launch vehicles and our Momentus transport vehicles, which will be powered by the water plasma propulsion technologies. And we are starting to provide expendable, and in the future we'll be providing reusable vehicles. And our water propulsion system will allow us to build our vehicles with an incredible low cost. So because we're using the water as a propellant, and because of this type of technology will allow us to build the vehicles almost like a degree of magnitude cheaper than with the traditional technologies, either electrical propulsion or conventional chemical propulsion, it will allow us to be extremely low cost and provide this service of deploying constellations, satellites and constellations in a very low cost manner.
A press release on the 25th of January was released stating that Mikhail Kokorich has formally resigned as CEO and Dawn Harms, former Chief Revenue Officer, has now been appointed acting CEO. The release states, and I quote, "Momentus, in consultation with the company's announced SPAC partner, Stable Road Acquisition Corp, Stable Road, has determined that accepting Mr. Kokorich's resignation is in the best interest of the company in an effort to expedite the resolution of the US government national security and foreign ownership concerns surrounding the company, the existence of which the company recently has formed." Okay, to me this casts further doubt into the future of this company. This is just my opinion, but I think it's clear to me that they are now more determined to take the company public than to look after and safeguard the interests of the company and potential stakeholders' interests altogether. As I mentioned previously, for me, the founder and CEO is one of the most important factors in any company that has targets to succeed and grow big long term. The fact they seem to have rushed this through and appointed their chief revenue officer to take the company forward is to me a huge mistake and shows me that the direction they are likely to go moving forwards. Okay, so we're not going to look at the price action today, but the stock is currently trading around the $22, $23 levels after a couple of red days. The major risk I see here is if the SPAC merger does not go through, and if this is so, it may be due to the regulatory issues. The stock could plummet back to and below the $10 SPAC price based on the issues I've highlighted, and this is only my opinion. I don't think ARK Invest will be adding Momentus to ARKX, even if the merger does end up going through. That doesn't mean in the future, if proof of concept has been achieved and Momentus does rise up, that they won't be added. At the moment though, I really cannot see it. To summarize, and I am piecing together a lot of news, presentations and deep drilling, and I'm not saying by any means this is a bad company or that you shouldn't invest in this company, so please don't take this literally. I am just presenting to you what I have found in my due diligence, deep drilling, that I always do when I look at investing opportunities. So please don't think that I'm a Momentus bear or short, because that is simply not the case, as I have no position to speak of on this stock. I do think that the idea behind Momentus is legit, but I have my doubts on their technology and their leadership. I may be proven wrong, but when they, and if they do successfully launch this year, only time will tell. I'm sure the hype of the space stocks together with ARKX may continue to push this stock further up in the short term, so there could be money to be made here, and I'm not challenging that. But for me, I only invest in companies which I can see huge long-term explosive growth potential based on solid fundamentals and game-changing potential. This stock has that, but unfortunately for me, the red flags are too dominant for me to add this to my investment portfolio right now. Let me know what you think and whether you will or have taken up a position in this already. I'd love to hear from you. I mean, I've seen countless YouTubers pumping this stock, but I've also seen one or two raising the same issues that I have found. So please know that doing your own due diligence is paramount when it comes to investing your own money. Thank you for watching, and remember, I have no position to speak of in SRAC and Momentus, so do take my analysis with precaution. Do your own due diligence and speak to a professional before you look to invest any of your money. The purpose of my channel is purely to share my deep drills on stocks I wanted to buy or already bought, which may help you make some educated investment moves going forward. If you are interested in other huge growth stocks that I do have in my portfolio, please check out my other videos. For more huge growth stock picks, analysis and updates, please stay tuned and consider subscribing to my channel so you get the information first. I am the Simple Trader. I try to keep this fairly simple, and will simply see you next time.